Salutations! My name is Summer, and this is Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats. And I want to do my weekly wrap up, tell you what I've read, and what I'm currently reading. And it's September 5th, Saturday. Okay, so the first thing, and I got Sylvie here at Finchurch. I moved my ferns, and he is like it's something new. They've been here this whole time, but you know how it is when if you have cats, even dogs, if you move something, it's like, oh, it's brand new. And now that I'm recording, Mayfair is in the litter box. That's what that scratching is. Okay, so the first thing I finished reading was Writers and Lovers by Lily King. And I really enjoyed this book. I was a little worried because, oh, here's Mayfair. She was fast. I was worried because everybody seemed to love this book, and I start to get nervous when a lot of people hype this book. They hyped it up for me. So I thought it might be like Beach Read or what other book was really popular that I didn't care for? It doesn't matter. Anyway, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed the whole thing. It was a little refreshing to have a main character who makes mistakes and is in a lot of debt because of the choices that she made, and wanting to be a writer and having to struggle in a real way. Because a lot of times when I read books, I feel like, oh yeah, that's not very realistic, and eventually somebody's going to bail them out, and I don't know. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this book. And it's all over BookTube. I'm sure you already know about it. It's about a woman who, it's really about relationships and coming into your own, and learning that you can stand on your own 2 feet, and that you're worth having what you want. I think it's more about that than if I was to read you what it was. One thing, this is very similar. I don't know. There's something about this book and this book, Friends and Strangers by J. Courtney Sullivan. They're very different, but there's something that, I don't know, there's something that's very similar. I mean, they're both writers and women writers, but everything else is different. But I'm not sure what it is that, for some reason, I feel they're very similar. Another thing is everybody's talking about Shakespeare's Tube is going on right now. I've never read any Shakespeare. I think I've never seen any plays. I think the only movie I've ever watched is Romeo and Juliet, and it was the newer version with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, or I think that's her name, and I wasn't a fan of it. So sure, I know a ton of references because the society, is so big on throwing his lines out there. But yeah, I've never read it, and I never watched any of the movies really. Except I absolutely love Shakespeare in Love with Joseph Fiennes and Anonymous. So I watched that movie, which is about, did Shakespeare really write the plays? I loved that and thought it was really interesting. So anyway, in this book, and I marked it, but watch me not be able to find it. Oh yeah, I marked it with oh no, I didn't. Anyway, this book, she mentions in here Macbeth. And I should have already had this. Anyway, she mentions Macbeth and how people see it a certain way because it's not taught a different way, but it could have been taught a different way. So that makes me want to read Macbeth this month and give Shakespeare a try. I have a friend who says, oh, you just need to watch them. So I ordered a couple movies from the library, and I'll probably get them soon. Maybe, maybe not. You never know with the library, but I'm very thankful that they're back open. So yes, I really enjoyed that book. And that's the only physical book I have finished this week. That's how it goes. I finished listening to Deacon King Kong by James McBride. I didn't like this when I first started reading it. And then I started to like it better because there was a character I liked named Soup. And they actually tell you his real name eventually. But after that character was introduced and I started to like it better, I started to like all the characters better. I guess it's because he started to show you that more human side, you know, how we all make mistakes and, you know, just how people are raised, and when you know better, you do better. And I don't know, it's a book that still has me thinking about things. So yeah, I ended up liking it. I didn't love it. I'm not sure if I really liked it. It was a little confusing about my emotions were a little confusing with how I felt about it. But yeah, I ended up liking it. So and The Witch of Blackbird Pond, Elizabeth George Spear. I had never read this before. I had never heard of it besides you guys on BookTube. So, and a lot of people said that they love this book. I loved it too. I have to say, I was just, it's funny how you read books and you think, yeah, things haven't changed much. Town May. When I first moved into this town, I went to the library and I became friends with the librarian. And I remember one day she had told me, because we started a book club, and she said, after you left the other day, a bunch of people were talking about how you're a witch. And I was just like, what? But you know, to each their own. If you're a witch, you're a witch. I'm not. So I just was like, why? And she said, I don't know. They were just saying all these things and how strange you were. And I'm Quaker. I don't know if that makes me strange. I mean, we sit in silence for 45 minutes. How, and you know, we're all about peace and, you know, not judging people, taking care of the environment, and being responsible for your actions, and treating everyone equally. I'm not sure why that is strange. Anyway, it was weird moving into a town and having people talk about you. So yeah, and for the woman who they say is a witch, that they are actually, I was worried that they were going to physically harm her, which, you know, yeah, for her not to be a witch, for her to be a Quaker, it kind of just blew my mind. It just reminded me so much of that experience I had of, and even the person across the street from me said, yeah, people warned me when you moved in that there's a strange lady living across the street from you, that family is really weird. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with people? But yeah, I love this. I love the story. I'm so glad it ended the way that it did because I was so nervous there for a while. But yeah, it's a great story. I put the book on my wish list because I loved it so much. I want to have it and I want to physically own it. And the funny thing about that is I first got it on Hoopla. I think that's what it's called, through the library on my Kindle. And I lost it before I could even read it. I couldn't find it. And so I returned it, and then I tried to get it back, and then I never could find it again. So I don't know. And then it came in the library audiobook. So I listened to it. Okay, now what I'm currently reading. I am almost finished with Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I plan to finish this tonight because tomorrow I plan to go see my friend if everything works out well. And I'm going to give it to him because he loves Frederick Backman too. So yeah, I am still loving this. It's it's very funny, but it's also heartfelt. And just how when you sit down, you might have these judgments about people, but when you sit down and talk to them, you learn we're all the same. You know what I mean? We all have our issues and things we're dealing with, no matter what we show to the world. So that I'm listening to Friends and Strangers by J. Courtney Sullivan. I'm really enjoying this. Um, and like I said, I'm not sure why it reminded me of Writers and Lovers so much. And I'm about halfway through. Because in Writers and Lovers, it's about a single woman. I mean, you hear about her relationships, but she's pretty much single. And here, she's the main woman. Well, there's two different characters you follow, and one is married and just had a child, and the other one is a senior in college. I love both of the characters, and I love both of those characters, and I love both of the characters in this book. So yeah, and I like the whole um, just all of it, really, about how one of them has money and the other one doesn't, and I'm really enjoying it. So since I read that Writers and Lovers and they talked about Macbeth, I pulled this bad boy out of a box, which is the complete works of William Shakespeare, and I have it already. I have it marked to Macbeth, so I'm going to get it to it. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but within this month, so that way I can pretend like I was a part of Shakespeare. Okay, so I am reading Survival, which is the first book in The Species Imperative by Julie E. And I thought I heard because I was watching something about her, and I think the CZ in her name is Chernetta, Julie C. Chernetta, I believe, is how she pronounces it. And I know I said this before that about the cover. I was so excited because last night when I was reading, I got to meet this character, and he looks exactly like that. She looks exactly like that. She is a evolutionary biologist, and she studies salmon. That's her main study. So she loves being by the water. So I love that there's a water scene. Yeah, it's really good. Really good. And so I have the whole trilogy. And I think and she has a lot of other books. Most of them are written in trilogy form. Most of them are trilogies. And she was talking about how this was supposed to be a duology. She really wanted it just to be one book. But they're like, no, you need to split those up because it would be. They're all this size, and this is 483 pages. So I'm glad they split them up. But I'm really enjoying Mac as the main character. I'm really enjoying her friends, her coworkers, and there's so much world building. I mean, they're on Earth, but you're learning about how the Earth is now and all the different species and what the rules are, of how you live and everything. And she does a field research. She gets out there, and she's kind of like a tomboy in that sense. She's a very strong, independent woman who speaks her mind, and so that kind of she ruffles feathers, I guess you'd want to say. So I'm loving it, and I'm so glad I have the next two books in the series. Okay. Another thing I want to mention is just got this from the library, but I have not started it yet, but I'm going to. Midnight Bayou by Nora Roberts. This is with Angie at Literary Labors has a book club with Rainy from Rainy Day Reads, I believe, but I can link now. So I will link that below. I want to say they're called Bitter Single Ladies Book Club or something like that. I'm not exactly for sure, and I should write it down. I should be more prepared with my videos instead of just winging it. But I like to go into books blind. I have no idea what this is about. I have read Nora Roberts before and I have enjoyed her. I really love The Search by her, which was about a woman who was running and she ended up getting kidnapped while she was running. And she actually was able to get away, but it was a serial um, rapist, murderer. And so then after that experience, she goes and she changes her whole life. She ends up training dogs. So she has 3 labs and she lives out in the middle of nowhere in a cabin. And I don't know if the man escapes or if he starts killing again and shows. I forget how he shows back. I don't know why I'm talking about that book. I'm holding up this book. I have no idea what this book is about. But I really enjoyed The Search by Nora Roberts. And, you know, I've read some other books of her that were okay, but This Search, I really enjoyed. It was a suspense more. It wasn't a romance. I'm guessing this is more of a romance. I look forward to it either way. And I really enjoy her channel. So I will link it down below. And the last thing I'm currently reading is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I'm really enjoying this. I'm not having any trouble with the characters or story or anything. So, and I'm really loving Prince Andre and Pierre's relationship with each other. And okay, so there's a couple of ladies. I don't want to spoil anything for people because I don't know how many people have read this, but there's a couple ladies that seem like they're money grubbing type women, but you have to think about where you're at and what time it is. So it's easy for me to judge because I'm single, independent, you know, I can take care of myself. You know, there's plenty of jobs out there I could get. And yeah, there's plenty of jobs out there you can get where you don't make it, you just don't make any money, but there are jobs out there for me to get. And I could get help from other ways, you know. It's like if I needed food, you know, I could try to get food stamps. If I couldn't do that, I could go to churches, you know, food pantries. I have options. And plus I don't have any kids. I just have my fur babies. So it's easy for someone like me to judge. But I love historical fiction. I've read so much about it, and especially about women, that the women that are coming off as kind of gold diggers, I guess. What options did these women have? You know, when you think about men had all the power, men held all the money. If your husband died, because one of the women, she's a widow, and she's wanting to make sure that her son is well taken care of and held in high society so that he has a chance in life. It's just like, yeah, what options do you have? You know, I don't know. I didn't live back then, but it doesn't seem like women have much of an option. So instead of me judging, I'm remembering about what time it is, what date it is. So it's like early 1800s. And so, yeah, it's but I'm really enjoying it. I'm not very far along. I'm only on page 92, and I plan to take it slow and just enjoy the ride. And I am. I'm really enjoying this. So, all right. Well, I think that's everything. I'd love to know what you're reading. If you are doing if you're doing any book clubs or if you're reading anything for Shakes Tube. I think it's called Shakes Tube. I may be mispronouncing it this whole time. Yeah, just anything you wanna talk about. All right, well, thank you. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.